Welcome to our parent experience video series. Today we are with Erica Atha talking about finding the balance between being diligent with your child's treatment, but also allowing that flexibility that needs to happen as your children grow and develop. So welcome to the series, Erica. We're so happy you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so why don't we just jump in and you tell us a little bit about your background and your experience with your son and bracing.
So, he is currently 3.5, so we are in our final stretch of bracing. He was in 23-hour wear until he was about 9 months old. We did a little bit longer of the 23-hour wear because he did not have a tenotomy for his bilateral club foot. And we're just in the home stretch. Thankfully, he adjusted pretty well to his braces, and we had a fairly easy transition so far until he got to toddlerhood, but that's
That's
expected.
when that's when flexibility really needs to come into play
Exactly.
with
Yeah.
those toddler years. So, what does like diligence mean to you as a parent in relation to your experience with clubfoot treatment?
So really just getting the boots on every night. And, I mean, we had some exceptions where if he was really sick, he might have a break occasionally, but really getting them on, getting his foot in the right position, making sure that his socks, I was very particular about his socks that he wore, making sure they were good fitting. And the straps in the right place and all that. We've been able to avoid any blisters so far. We've got about 6 months left, so we'll see if we can keep that up with just making sure everything's on the way that it needs to be.
Mhm. And I think that, as we kind of said in the beginning, this like diligence and flexibility, like you said, where you're trying to find that balance because you're trying to be very diligent in your adherence to the bracing schedule because you know that that is the number one prevention against relapse, right? So you're like, okay, I'm going to be really diligent with this. But then as your child moves through their early childhood development and you hit these points where you're like, okay, I need to be a little bit more flexible. Like, how did you maintain those two things at the same time?
So I really made sure that he had his boots on every night. There were some nights where, if we were having a power struggle and he just wasn't having it, he went to bed without them. And then I would wait until he was asleep to put them on. He may not have gotten his full 12-hour wear. He was probably closer to 10 at that point, but he, he got them on every night with the consistency. The closer we get to the end, he has been trying to ask for breaks. So he probably goes to bed without them on more often, but I put them on after he's asleep. And he'll wake up and ask, when did they get put on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's as our kids grow,
Mhm.
it's important to figure out those ways that we can be flexible and adjust our treatment to meet their needs, but still adhere to whatever the protocol is for them. And I think it's important for parents just to know that like you're gonna have bumps in the road. Your kid's growing and we all know how toddlers are
Yeah.
and they have a mind of their own and they're trying to assert their autonomy and kind of flex those behavioral muscles and
Mhm.
the bracing is a part of that. Like it's not like that's a whole separate thing. It's part of your growing child. So being able to make those adjustments like putting the boots on so that you're still meeting those requirements, but you're adjusting it to make sure that it's working for your kiddo.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you have a parent like just navigating who's in kind of the midst of the bracing, what is something that you would recommend to them?
Really just give yourself grace. I mean, there's so much rigid like routines and stuff like that that you have to go through with any kid really, but especially the clubfoot kids that have to go through these bracings, and there's a lot of things that are different, in the routines. And you read everybody's stories different. I mean, everybody's demographics are different, where you are, your routine, whether you have other kids. My son is my only kid, so I don't have that going into it. So you really have to, when you're reading other people's stories or anything, just give yourself grace and, know that you're doing the best you can with what you're given. And, the outcomes, everybody's outcomes really end up being the same. That, in the end, you have a corrected clubfoot.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Erica, for being here and talking to us about your experience today.
Thank you.